Thank you for joining us on another episode of Potheads Pondering. I'm Lotta with the Bakersmen Collective, and today we have a special guest, Miguel, aka Miggy420, here to talk to us about being a cannabis influencer, what that entails, the ups, the downs, and the in-between. Miguel, tell us a little bit about yourself and your pronouns.
I love that you call me an influencer. Thank you. But I really, I think influencers make money, but it's all good though. Yeah. But and it's kind of with the cannabis conversation, of course I turn my coin if you look it up. But there's shit I've been writing about, like the internet is what got me where I'm at. It is and I think legalization itself. And oh, by the way, it's he, me, you. I don't care. But like, the influencer side of things is kind of funny because of like what I've been doing has just been for the lulz, right? Like when I started doing this, MySpace just started. Napster was a thing that people were using to download illegal music. You just take
Throwing
2 days.
It back.
You just type in words and walked away from the computer hoping like you get like the one song out of like 5 different downloads. But like, that's been my advantage. It's just been early internet inning, right? Like the blogging. I started one of the bigger websites when the internet was fresh and easy, right? Where you could just create a URL as far as like books.com, right? Now you own like all the whatever you reference, right? And like marijuana.com was one of those ones that somebody scooped up, and now it's Weed Maps. And my boys, one of my boys in the early days of who created the Weed blog. And that's the thing about the internet, right? Like it's social media. We talk about social media, and that's what most people think the internet is like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
Way bigger.
Yeah, I mean, before social media, it was just websites. I mean, essentially, that's what Facebook was, just a website. The key to any of it is advertising, right? Like that's what we were trying to do, is like that's how Facebook made their money, was advertising. So all these endeavors I've done has not been for like the influencing side of things, but like the pulling in eyeballs to a thing. And hopefully we're gonna like, make some money off of this, because everybody's got to eat.
Right. Then you got to figure out a way to do it. And if you're smart at that time, especially when you're speaking, the internet was like the next growing route, outside of working in a brick and mortar, clocking in day out. For many of individuals, the internet was seen as that avenue to not having to work for somebody else anymore. So I'm going to start my business. I'm going to, not even before the start my business page, but I'm going to have a website. I'm going to go on there. I'm going to sell my products online. I'm going to trade on something. The internet.
That's how I got into with the guys, because I had a website. I saw the same thing. I'm like, okay, well, as a kid, one of the things that have always been a heart for me is I wanted to be a writer. Like I just wanted to be a writer. Then the internet comes involved. I was in MySpace. I was involved with a lot of writing groups and poetry groups and just different aspects of writing. But in the end, it's a famous poet out there, Bukowski, Charles Bukowski, who just wrote all. He was a barfly, and early in his career, they realized that there's no money in poetry. Like he had to write stories and then get that shit out there. And that's kind of like where I was at, was like, all right, there's no money in poetry, but I can start writing, and then hopefully that'll open up avenues. And that was with the website I had called Lazy American. And then there's no traffic though. Like if you're going to do something yourself, you gotta be your best own advocate. But if you have a team and 100%. Do a thing, I mean, that's how you're going to pull eyeballs to your website. Where, hey,
it's hard. Yeah. It's just me. And if you don't know anything at this day and age about SEO, like code, like things on the back end that get you to the motherverse of Google, then your website is just a website. It's just a place that people won't go to until you tell them to go there.
Exactly. And then the other, not just pointing them to it, but why the fuck should I go there? Right? Like, why are you the authority? Why do I care about Lotta? Or why do I care about who created a site? And the thing is, that's where social media kind of like overlapped with like the internets, as far as like, now you got the most toxic personalities who can create a website and pull traffic. Like just recently that there's that asshole Tate. I don't know if you're familiar with that guy. Yeah.
Not familiar, but I've seen the backlash.
Yeah. I mean, the guy's a seriously just I mean, I'm a misogynist. This guy's just a fucking horrible human being, but
Okay.
you feel me though, right? I mean, like
Yeah,
talking stuff
absolutely.
about like women are just like material or whatever. I mean, just toxic, bad for humanity type shit. And now this guy, we know about him, and I'm sure he just got his website now. There's traffic on his side, not unless that gets taken down. Hopefully, like, I mean, there's so many things about like social media and like message boards and just navigating the internet, right? Like how you can get a message out there, how you can get those eyeballs. It's kind of like what I've been doing, but I've been doing it trying not to have my name out there, right? Like for the past 10 years, I've been adminning a group, Free THC. And I tried sharing my channel, my page, but I couldn't share it here. But I'll just tell you right now, it's just funny because again, I was telling you, like I've done this for the laws. Like for me, it's just about entertaining. The cannabis conversation itself has been from the beginning was a bit depressing, right? I was writing about arrest, raids, not even the law changing it. It was mostly okay, we got medical, but hey, look at all these people getting screwed over for medicine. And then really that's
Right.
the hard part, right? Like convincing too it's medicine that look,
Right.
yes, yeah, I mean,
Even though everything historically points to it being used as medicine up until we made it illegal, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, they detached that idea of medicine from it. I mean, not for some reason, it was intentional,
yeah,
right? It was a very intentional purpose, but you're right to speak to the depressingness of cannabis news, which is why my podcast is on pause at this point in time. I felt like I had it's like if you do a daily show that reports on cannabis news, you are just mad.
yeah.
You're mad. You're mad. You
It
are
wears
mad
in
at a
your
lot of things.
seriously though, it wears in your soul.
And so I couldn't. We got to 3 seasons. I said we've talked about the basic education that I could provide over a podcast.
Mm,
There's not enough federal like action happening. And
yeah.
so on the states, all we're doing is reporting, oh, like this will big up some big policy that they're promoting that's going to be helpful. And then
Mm-hmm.
you wait 6 months to a year down the road, and you'll see the negative impact it actually had on the community. And you're like, well, that wasn't the plan for this entire time. And because it's still in its infancy, we're going to get these up, and it's not like a smooth, stable market that you could consider, like other industries are at this point in their time. There's too much because everyone's fighting to be that Google,
Yeah.
that top person. And so what happens on the ground is that the plant that is supposed to be for the people and from the people just does the people dirty.
Well, I mean, that's true. That's the thing, right? Like legalization really isn't legal because there's all you have are monopolies. You don't have like real, like I don't have a chance to like I could open up a brewery tomorrow, or not even a brewery. Like I can start maybe brewing my own beer. And then if I get really good at it, then I can think, okay, maybe I'll sell it. I can't do that with cannabis. And that's Vivian McPeak put it best when he says, we're just asking for parity, just treat alcohol and cannabis the same, at least as far as the law goes and possessions and all that crap. But like I was talking about with the laws though, like in doing the this admin of this group. So like I'm looking at the analytics, and in a month we've reached 3.2 million people, and it's crazy number, right?
Yes.
And I'm guarantee you, like there's a small percentage of them just know who I am, right? At least 100,000. Because for the most part, I've been admitting this group, not advocating for myself or like promoting my shit. Because I mean, what I have to offer is free. It's just, that is the true social justice. I think, as soon as legalization happens, that is the true equity. Is like as soon as everybody has a chance to plant a seed. We did an interview with a New Jersey weed man. He's
Nice, the weed man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh
great
yeah.
guy, cool cat.
Mhm.
And but he has a great story because he's also part of a long time like the activism with like Jack Harrer, right? Like there was a church, there's a woman that I was friends with, Joy Graves. She was Jack Harrer's last caregiver. He actually had someone with him at the side taking care of him. And but they were all in this inner circle, and Weed Man was part of them, hanging out and doing weird shit. Like it's all that hippy dippy shit, right? And,
For
and
sure.
it's also part of that stigma though, because it kind of forces us to be in that thing. You have to be that hippy dippy because this is cannabis. So who else I'm going to hang out with and smoke with and just kind of chill and like not judge because they're smoking a stupid plant. To weed man, though, the power of the plant and social equity. He told us in the interview that he went to not Jersey, but to California, only $500 in his pocket, and rented out a spot, a small room in somebody's house, and grew a first plant in the closet. And then from that plant, he took that, made some money, flipped it, how you do, and then became who he is, and even after he got raided, he did the same shit. And you can grow a fucking enterprise. I mean, if you're by yourself and have the fortitude, but like, I don't have a green thumb and I don't have the patience nor the acumen to do it. That's why I've been doing the media shit. I've been just trying to change the world with like opinion. It's not a drug culture, in my opinion, right? When people talk about cannabis community and all this crap, I'm just trying to change the minds of fellow Americans, right? Fellow citizens, humans. You're talking about the lack of federal movement on this. That's part of the bag when you start learning about like legalization and the process. This parliamentary procedure is fucked, but it's also the best one and only one we got. And there's so much to do with how to get a thing approved or how to get it through. And a lot of it's disheartening, right? Like the MORE Act. The reason why Schumer has been holding on to it is because they wanted to have their bill come through. But yet, if you put the MORE Act on the floor, schedule it, because it's up to him to schedule it, being the head of the fucking, the House or Senate, whatever that is that Schumer's in charge of, because that's how the process works. Then we can see where people stand. But yet, because they want their bill, or there's not enough advocates out there, there's not enough money flowing out there
not enough lobbyists putting money in his pocket to make it worth his while.
Yeah. But see, these fuckers are also focused on other things too. They're focused on like Roe v. Wade and ending that, right? Like,
meanwhile, the global health is tanking, right? The health of our community, the happiness of people living in this country, it's going underwater. And you know what has always made people happy? Some weed. Some weed has made a lot of people fucking happy out here. So why wouldn't you why change it up? Or why not change it up and see if you can change the overall view people have on living in America and the world has on America, because so many other countries are way ahead of us when we're talking about cannabis legislation as a whole. But before we go down too many roads, what do you think makes you a pothead? Like, what is it? Give it to the people.
Hey, what, and I like that question. I saw that and I was thinking about that. And when I first started writing and getting people's attention, one of the bigger two ways I came about how I come at this, and then sometimes you forget because then you get caught up in all the partying and having a good time. But then every once in a while you're like, shit, man, I gotta go back to what it is. And the first thing is like, anybody who smokes cannabis, as soon as you light that joint and as soon as you enjoy it and appreciate it, you're an advocate, right? Because you can go to jail. You have the chance you're violating the law. You're a bad person. All of a sudden you're black. You know what I mean? There's that there's
a stigma there, but I don't think it's as bad as being black in America.
But you know what I'm saying, though, right? That's just the extreme.
Right, yeah, that's the extreme. You're one of those people. You're one of the others.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, we do all these things where we put people in power against our own self-interest. And it's like, why, there is no two good sides on both sides debate on this topic for me, right? Because sure, that person might have a family and be a good citizen, but as soon as they think I belong in jail, or I'm a lesser person, or just you, because I'm not, just because we're not, you're not, they're not. It's just
hands down. I'll give it to you. And in the words of Cat Williams, you just hit a little bit of weed, you get that in your system. Like it enhances that idea of like, I call it a change in perspective, right? Yeah. So like all of a sudden I'm hot. You don't like me because of me consuming a plant. You don't like me because the color of my skin, something I cannot change. You don't like me because of the accent I speak in. Like, you don't like me because of the spices I use in my food. You know what I mean? Like, when you start breaking it down to that level, and those are the thoughts. I'll tell you, people out there, those are the thoughts that you'll have when you get high, because it slows down to that amount. So I'm like, no, bro, like,
seriously. But the irony of all that too is the origins of all that thinking is these fuckers left their little island because they wanted to get some spices. Right, a little salt and pepper.
Right. And then now you're mad that people are adding salt and pepper to everything out here. Like but you need it. You wanted the flavor. You got it now. So you can't run from it. You can't run back from it. And I think the way that we get into accepting our differences, because that's what I would say, I don't think I've ever answered this question on the podcast, like what makes me a pothead, right? Is that level of acceptance that I felt with like-minded individuals. Like the community I had always been searching for happened to be another person that smoked weed, right? And I've moved so much in my life. I had to go to new schools. It was always transient. I always lived 2 hours or 2 bus rides or a train ride away from my school. So I had to cultivate. I was always a new kid.
Right.
Right. No, just financial issues. The fact that my family was from the islands, so I spent time in the Cayman Islands. I spent time in Florida. I spent time in Georgia, and just living with different parents and that sort of deal. I settled in on my tribe, and they were all smokers because they had that openness to change, that willingness to accept whatever, like regardless of what you look like or you sounded like, the willingness to accept you and like give you a chance to express who you were, and they wanted to connect with that fully. And so and to me that's the culture of cannabis, like period. Like that is it, simply because you go to any smoke circle, the variety, like any huge smoke session, and you plan one of those together, and you look at you take a minute to step back while you're there. Look at the variety of people that are in the room loving that plant. And you can't tell me that it won't help the culture, like not just the culture, but the community. It won't help heal our global health, produce more acceptance of each other. So that being able to realize that and choosing it over and over again is what I feel makes me a pothead. And I can see that culture anywhere. It's as little as a tattoo, pot leaf. It's as little as, because like once you get there, you're gonna have something that you want like another person to know, like, I get down.
Yeah. Well, and then it's like you said, like someone, like if you start a new job, you try and look subtle hints, like how do you find fellow smokers? Because you're looking for a fellow, that's the community you're looking for. But it's kind of weird how like prohibition kind of like encouraged that community, right? It kind of fueled that like secret handshake, but then now I think, and I see it in 502, it's kind of taken away from that community. Like there was so much with the medical side of things that crumbled, but now it's slowly re-evolving, because now you're having, when medical was in Washington State, one of the things that, well, first, as an advocate, when I started writing and doing things, you start getting attention of other people, and you're still learning yourself. I'm still learning today. I'm almost 50 and I'm still fucking learning. And one, for me, advocating in the beginning was not about medicine. It was about the lesser evil and why is it I can go to jail for weed, but yet I can drink all I want and booze and fucking OD. Because I've had a friend wake up in a ditch and be hospitalized from too much alcohol, and we're young and dumb,
right?
So that was the original. My point for advocacy was just don't arrest me. Let me just be a human being. And when I came out, and then people would send me emails and stuff, there was a gentleman, and here's the thing: is like, you have to say in doubts, because you got to put out that doubt, because the doubt's coming at you no matter what, that this is medicine. And this is, if it was medicine, why is it illegal? Or if it was like such a non-harmful plant, why are people in jail? Why is there well, because the government's fucked up, because separate drinking water fountains were a thing. And did that make it right? Or genocide in the beginning of all this,
right.
Did it make
the
it right?
Inception of this country was not right.
Exactly. And that's the part where we have to acknowledge, but at the same time, this is the best option for us. This is our home. You can shit in your home all you want, but you still got to walk in it, and that's the whole thing. So when I came out, and then I got this video, this one guy in particular, and honestly, I don't know if he's still around. Just there's so many advocates that have come and gone. And that's the problem with this prohibition is more people have died seeing it illegal and skirting the law and all the other bullshit, dealing with the bullshit from prohibition versus just having a regular life. And this gentleman, he was in a wheelchair. I think he had MS or something, but he takes a video of himself rolling in the chair. Then he smokes it and then saw him get up. And I was like, all right, this made me question if it was medicine or not. I just didn't understand about the cannabinoid system or how your body is inherent. It's like the nervous system, you know. I'm not a medical freaking, you know, my kids get sick. I check their head, you know, I'm like, okay, you're hot. All right, let's get you, you're staying home. I don't, you know,
Right.
soup.
Like mom.
Yeah. I mean, like we still are understanding, like we have to understand the gamut of everything. And, but I see that from what I do as a living too. Cause I work in, when I pays my bills is I work in metrology, which it's kind of like when I check, like scales, for an example. You know, when you go to the store, you buy a pound of cheese, you want to make sure that scale works. And that's what I do. I check the scales, but the scales I check are actually like things that involve like antennas and RF and shit. It's all the super nerdy, weird shit. But it's a pretty high level thing. And that's kind of one of the things I've been trying to like live my life by an example when it comes to advocacy and all the other shit I do. It's like, all right, look, I have a family, I have a job. The only reason why I'm here is because this law is all fucked up. You know, if there was no prohibition, right, there'd be no Miggy420.
Right. That's okay. That's very real of you to say, because that's how we got to the concept of functional potheads for our original podcast name. And I can't wait to eventually bring that back. But that concept, that term I coined a long time ago because everyone's like, oh, you're a pothead, you're a pothead. And I was like, yeah, but I'm functional, bro. Like I got 2 degrees. I had a whole career. And I just needed something to help me de-stress. And then when I got, you know, this year, I learned it was helping me balance my mental health. It was helping me with my chronic like my disfigure, like my back disfigurement that led to chronic pain, my PCOS that went undiagnosed my entire life. And so all of these medical ailments I kept in check and managed to make it through life with just using weed.
Oh yeah.
Right. And that's unknowingly, right? So so like so then
but for real.
Yeah, that's real. So that's like but there are more people that fall into the functional pothead category than whatever stereotype media or mainstream media has created about the stoner or the pothead or that lazy person. Like there are more people like you and I in existence than the other side. Those are the people that have not figured out how to use cannabis in their life, or they've chosen it specifically just to be recreation. So it's either they don't know how to balance their ECS, right? Gotcha. They don't know what their tolerance level or any of those things are, or they're looking for a fun time, and that's okay too. But that is not the majority of people that use cannabis. And so like, when are we going to start representing those people? And I'm glad that there are individuals like yourself, and you know, the more that my network, basically the more people I created and started talking, like I was like, oh, okay, so we're of the same like mind. Right.
Well, when I used to be a florist in college, you know, like I mean, all the way from before college to like a little bit middle. But I used to sell to a college professor, an English professor, and a fire department. Actually, I sold to his wife, a fireman. So like when I was 18, 19, I knew regular grown-up smoked. Like the issue was not the plant, but the law. And that's always been the issue. You know, the problem is, you know, when you, again, understanding the process, how this whole happened, right? Like the whole Anslinger, DEA, the levels of bullshit for control over minorities and villainizations of us, or the consumer itself, which just makes easy targets. And it took a while for people to realize, for one, you have an endocannabinoid system, not an alcohol system, right? You know, and you don't go.
Meanwhile, that was out in the 1960s. That was out way back. Like it was discovered, has been discovered, but they didn't let the information hit the masses.
Well, and then that got reinforced, I believe, in the 80s with the discovery of endomites, right? Like your body just absorbs this thing. There's a reason, it's we as humans have the shittiest thinking like we're gonna like law enforcement our way out of everything, right? Like, imprison everybody or treat the you don't treat the illness. And the illness in itself is like, the like the homelessness you see in the cities, the tents you see, people camping out. None of this shit's new. There was a report in the 1930s from Seattle, mind you. I saw it on Twitter and I tweeted a long time ago. But some woman did some like, you can, as a media person, you can claim Freedom of Information Act stuff. She got this report from the 1930s, and it's out all the same. It sounded like 2022. We're talking about the people living mental health versus just a lot of it. I think too is just people just giving up. Like I get it. Like
times are hard.
Not just that, but like obligations, bills, rent, all this shit that we do to try and like have a functional society. Sometimes it's just like this. I could go live in a tent and just not have to go to work and worry about it. But the reason why I do the things I do is because I like running water and I like a roof over my head and I like variety food and toilets.
And you can't, I mean, all of that is very true. And they've made it illegal for you to get those things from nature.
Oh God.
Right. Like that. Like, I just want to throw that out there that like being unhoused is not a good route if you want to avoid interactions with the law. So but these are things that maybe people could survive the weight of existing within society if they had a way to balance out their body, their potential deficiencies, their stressors. So you have your body takes on stress. Well, the system that is designed, that your body creatively put together to manage that stress, endocannabinoid system, right, like is there, and maybe they're just not engaging it enough because your monomolecular pharmaceuticals don't play with that system, and you blocked all of this out there. And if you want to circle back to the conversation of like how it became illegal, they wanted people to stop protesting the dumb shit the government was doing straight up. And so they targeted them. But here we are now with the one thing that they didn't shut down. Yeah, you made the drugs illegal. Yeah, you criminalized being Black in America. Sure. I mean, that's always been a thing. Yeah. But you didn't turn off the internet. So that means my ability to connect to the masses is even better. Back then, we had one major issues. We had to gather in a meeting place. We had to call someone so you could have tapped it. And yes, you can track and pull all this information off the internet, but there are 13-year-olds that are smarter than your fucking senators. Oh, yeah. Your Congress people pulling their information off of, like, they have gotten that good with the internet. And I think that helps us and hurts us both as a community, right? Because so many people are stuck in this virtual world that they are not actually being able to navigate the world that exists outside of the internet, right? As much. So like our socialization, especially after COVID and everything, it just became a little bit more complex for people to do. But you know what makes that easier? Some weed, smoke a little bit for some folks, not everyone, but for some folks, that social anxiety goes down a blip and they can connect with more people more honestly. And so I just think that if we're looking at the health of our community and our nation, we can no longer deny that cannabis could play a role in it.
Oh, for sure. I think I like to say that the nation has a THC deficiency, right? Like how vitamin C, the sailors found out you get scurvy if you don't get vitamin C. Well, we're seeing what happens when we annex this plant, this thing that's nature, God-given, whatever you want to say. But and to your point about like the PTSD part, that's another part. Like the wellness of this plant and how it can help you, not just physically, right? Like I told you, I started advocating because I didn't want to go to jail. And then I see that it helps other people medically. And then I learned about the cannabinoid system. But then, like I'll find myself out, like I think the longest I've been out was probably a week, paydays or whatever. I'm like, oh, I'm just grumpy. Just like, I'm so pissy. Like, Jesus, like if I just had a little bit of weed, it would set my week straight, or whatever.
And they
But
say that's withdrawal. And I was like, just maybe that's just a lower tolerance of dealing with the world's bullshit.
it's just yeah, you're right. It's when you realize like, oh shit, that was helping. I should probably do some more, or I could even journal if I want to and find out and get scientific about it. But I'm not at that level of like care. I'm just like, I like to go to the store. My job is to go to work and then buy weed or whatever I can after that. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Support my family. I mean, I appreciate that. So any recommendations? We talked about how you got started in the industry as a cannabis influencer, right? Or just someone who liked blogging, writing, and being an activist in this role. So any recommendations for people trying to get started now to be able to net that level of impact, right?
Groups, man. Like, so there's so many, well, first off, like we were talking earlier about how like you don't do editing, right? Like your role, right? Like I am not an editor. I've tried and it's sloppy and it takes a long time. And I mean, I'll still do it. I'll do it and be like, all right, I know it looks like shit, but this is me. And then if I have someone hook me up or whatever, then it's like cool. But the biggest thing is like working with a team. You need a team to catch these eyeballs, and not just a team to like be active, but like, is it you? There's 300 fucking million people in America. It's gonna be you versus 300, and then you got them on the internet. So, and then the modding, and then the fucking bots that are out there. There's so much involved that you got to combat, especially with cannabis. Like every day I'm trying to like on that Facebook group I tell you that we have. It's if you want to see the URL, it's free THC, Facebook / but daily I'm fighting these goddamn bot weirdos trying to sell weed to other people. And I'm like, yeah, and it just blows my mind how these people create these programs that can do it, and then I'm ban delete, and they fucking show up again. I'm like, god damn it. Or they try and be sly and be like, hey, it's been a hard COVID year, smoke when you got them, go to the house or whatever. And you're like, bitch, first off, I feel bad for people who click on that kind of shit because they don't really know how to internet. They don't know, like, hey, that's most likely a scam. That's not how people like throw their information out there, even on a low. If I was on a low, I'd be on Telegram or something weird.
Right. Something off to the side. Yeah.
But like, I forget the point, master. I just started wondering.
Oh, sorry.
Get in there to get in. Yeah. No, you're good. So like, all the big things I've done have been with the team, and that's all it is. And a lot of volunteering. Like for me, it's been the writing. I volunteer my words. If you Google Miggy420, you're going to see a shit ton of articles. I've only made $7 the whole time I've been doing this for 10 years. One guy, Sativa Online Magazine, he's like, I have to pay you. Like, I'm like, man, that's not why I do this. I'm doing it. And as I told you, the Miggy420, the internet, it's kind of like the streets. You got to think of the internet as like you got to be the most realist person you can be if you're going to be representing or coming out as a certain thing. And for me, it was Miggy420. That was my gaming tag, right? I was a Halo god. I would wreck people in Halo and all the other stuff. But when it came to like writing and doing my thing online, I couldn't just come out as my full government name, nor do I really go by it. I just go by Miguel. Like if people want to talk to me, my friends. But like, I couldn't go by it. So I chose Miggy420 because that was like my gamer tag. And then the repeating of the same name, for everything I did. I see a lot of weirdos in the cannabis community sometimes where it's like you'll have like one fool with like 10 pages. You're like, why? I mean, I get you get flagged and deleted all the time, but I've been deleted once. That was a 10-year page that had more advocates than you ever know, and they all died. And I can't re-get that page back. But like, I'm on my second Facebook page, and it's funny. They never gave me a reason why I deleted the first one. But yet, when I see people with like 5 pages, I question, first off, your mentalness. Like, you got a lot of energy to sit there.
Why do you want to run that many?
Seriously, though. And I understand you're just trying to do more outreach, but that's where you got to know how to manipulate the platform. Like in Facebook, the early days of Facebook, if you want to make a good, huge impact, there was like groups. So like I'd be writing articles, and then like to promote I was the best advocate. I was a street team for all the websites that I helped, write for. So I would put those articles in different groups, trying to get the most eyeballs, the most attention to them. I used to travel as a technician on the road. And so a lot of times, I was a street team in bars because that's what I would do. I'd go to a bar, and for one, I'm trying to find weed. So if I'm going to try to find weed, might as well go to the bar and, or talk to the house staff, because that's a lot of times.
Right, because they going to know where it is.
And so like to get into it is you just have to do a lot of volunteering, do a lot of work for free, unfortunately, because that's how you get this draw. I mean, unless you're like a hot 18-year-old TikToker, I mean, there's what I'm saying, the world is
Talk
superficial.
about it. Right.
It is what it is, though, man. You can get the eyeballs you want, all that superficial bullshit, or you can have a point in a purpose, and then people will come to you no matter what. But like,
it's just gonna take longer.
Yeah, but they're more real. You know what I'm saying? You eventually are gonna get older and start sagging and not looking whatever it is. I mean, popularity comes and goes, and I've seen that. I was in a Cut video. Are you familiar with Cut?
Yes.
I was in the Teachers Are High video.
Yeah.
First fucking day, it had 7 million hits. Wasn't even on the front page of YouTube's like most why? Because of cannabis. You know what I'm saying? We got this constant thing against us. So my only advice to people is just do as much as you can. You're just throwing shit in the wall until it sticks, man.
Right. Exactly. But have a clear, consistent message and a target audience, and don't deviate from that target audience. And I think that's where you lose people, when you stop representing the people that you claim to want to from the jump. And I think that's where a lot of people fell off. They get this following, and then because they get a certain crowd from somewhere else, they start changing up who they are to fit that dynamic, and it doesn't lead well. So yes, be consistent with your messaging. Know who you're targeting, and as you said, navigate the various social media apps. Like if you're creating a page on that social media app, why? Right? Like
exactly.
Why are you using that one? And before I created anything new for T.B.C, right? They all exist, and most of them aren't as functional as our Instagram page. But every time I sat down and I thought about it, there was a solid reason why I needed to make this page. And it was not on the same social media app. It was realizing this one is failing to meet this demographic.
Oh yeah.
Or this folk, like this set of audience. And I can find them in this place.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to bring you all back to my universe, something that I'm in control of.
That's it.
Right. So that's why you need to, if you're trying to jump into the social media game or this influencer world, why are you accessing that social media and stream, make sure the content that you're putting out there is usable in that dynamic, and know that if it's about cannabis, you're going to be banned on most of them.
Oh yeah. It's funny. I've been working on my co-host Tom for the podcast Cannabis Legalization News, the one who, so I've known Tom since MySpace days, and Tom was a banking lawyer back then, right? Like I said, I've been doing this shit for a long time, man. I had hair that was all black and shit, and I didn't have a beer gut as big. I didn't look like I was 6 months pregnant. It's all good, but like, that's how fucked up this law is, right? When something is so wrong and so just egregious, right? And here's the thing, right? Like black, brown, gay, straight, I don't give a fuck. You're a human. You're American. You're a person that does, like, if you're gonna get wrong, it should be doing something that's wrong, right? Like, I don't know, driving through a crowd or something like that, like real crime, like. Smoking a doob is not the crime.
Storming the Capitol.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Shit to go after. But to that effect, though, you got to also know. See, that's the hard part, right? The politics of all this bullshit. So, how this happened, prohibition, because all these old white assholes had the same plan, but now that we're in 2022, it's not as dominant in the legislation part. But yet, to get to that process again, to get to herd, it is long and arduous because, again, it's more money now, more people involved. Before, they were all on the same plan. I'm like, hell yeah, let's put all these people in the back of the bus. Let's keep all the Mexicans in labor, whatever it is that their thinking is. for whatever reason, treating us lesser makes them, but making us equal is going to be lesser.
I has to be a form of psychosis that I
Yeah.
will never be able to really dive into because I
Mm-mm.
just don't subscribe to it. But
Exactly.
so what are some of your key takeaways given your length of time in this influence? If you have to like narrow it down to three takeaways for someone.
For getting like,
Well, no, just like evaluating the industry and becoming an influencer, like three top things that they should know based off of your time doing this.
well, so I helped gather signatures for Prop 215, right? Prop 215 was one of the first laws, medical laws for California. And then I hear like other laws that might have been before that, but that's, to me, I call that the gateway proposition that happened, because all the other states, medical was the domino effect, right? So you're going to have medical first. And then what happens is people realize no one died. People are going to realize, holy shit, the world doesn't change. People are actually happier and functioning more. Did you, there's a recent study that came out that more youths are consuming cannabis and psychedelics right now than alcohol and cigarettes. And that's actually a good thing,
Absolutely.
It's we talked about how cannabis can help treat PTSD and even mushrooms. We had on our show, and I forget where they were from. I think New York or maybe Virginia. I don't know. But anyways, if you Google it, you can look up hood PTSD. Homegirl brought up, hood PTSD, and we're talking about PTSD in general, right? Because PTSD is just not war. It's traumatic events in our lives, and cannabis is that thing, and even small, dosage of mushrooms help you rewire your brain and how you think about things and how you react to things. And but part of that, besides, you don't just smoke a joint and go, holy crap, I can see the world now. The other part is you have someone to talk it out with, right? That's the therapy part. You got to reopen your mind and expand and say, these are things that I never really considered are why I think the way I do or how I affect it. Because subconsciously, that's the other thing. That's what cannabis really does help you do. It helps you connect with that subconscious while you talk it out, and then you can figure things out. But so yeah, medical is gonna be the first one. And once you get medical, people are gonna get greedy. And then when you see like I believe it's not True Leaf or Curaleaf down in Florida, they're now behind the recreational side. I think why? Because it's gonna happen no matter what. And so if they get their money behind it now, because here in Washington State, there were many, many grassroots programs trying to get recreational going, but only the money made it happen, unfortunately. And that's America, right? That's what I'm gonna tell you. That's number one. It's the money's gonna make it happen.
Okay. So you go medical, you go rec once you get enough money, big business money coming into the state, and then what's the final thing?
Oh well, so then then you have monopolies at that point. Once you have the 502 or your recreational program, in fact, you're gonna have limited licenses, and it's you're competing for fiefdoms at this point. It's not even fair. It's not even a lottery. I think one place did it right, and that was Maine. I think that had like a bingo ball thing, and one per thing, right? Illinois, they had this company called KPI that did their licensing points. No transparency, right? Like they have some sort of secret algorithmic math out there that figures shit out, opposed to like 2 + 2 = 4. You know what I mean? It's just
right.
Lack of transparency, which kind of leads to like where the politics side of things. Nobody likes to talk about the politics side, and we have to. Like you mentioned the January 6th shit. This is a true reality where the Republican Party used to be this like, I mean, even when I was younger, I always thought they were racist in leaning towards, but it wasn't so prevalent until the last 4 years. We're like, holy shit, they might as well just hold a Klan rally at this point. But that's the truth we got to acknowledge, and hopefully they acknowledge it too within themselves and become what America is, right? Like, so the other part, number two, would be like the process. We have to acknowledge the bad politics, the bad process, because that's how we got where we're at. That's what I was trying to say. Like in the beginning was the white guys, it was just like 2 of them, 10 of them, whatever. Like we got a plan. And then now, because America, we have that whole like Statue of Liberty, the statue that was given us by France with this big, beautiful quote, "Give me your poor, you're hungry," and all that shit.
That.
You know what I'm saying? Like we are quite the quandary because we are still the beacon for a lot of people. but yeah, at the same time, we're actually getting our shit together so much. So
mm,
that would be a second. Is like we have to acknowledge our politics just to get past and get through, and also understand the process, the parliamentary
mhm,
procedure. Whatever different states are different ways of doing it. So
mhm.
figure out your state because that's. I honestly think the states are going to knock it down before the federal, unless somebody puts because it's so crazy to see how it works. You know, these fuckers aren't putting things on the floor because of the what is it filibuster, right? Like they talk and they come to agreement, and until they say, okay, this is definitely going to go through. We got enough names now. Now I'm going to put it on the floor. Well, make process happen. Put it on the floor right away, and let's see where
What the
people
people
stand.
thinking on it?
Exactly, and then we can vote on them later.
The
But
problem is that the popular vote already told them all where people stand on it.
oh yeah,
So right, like they see the evidence, they just haven't figured out a way to generate capital for the government that works amongst all the states. And so
mm,
they have to keep it slow, like they have to slow down the legalization efforts until we've got the interstate transport, distribution, all of these things that they're already making difficult. Like for that to even happen, they're redoing and allowing CDL license holders to actually consume. Like, how can I even transport weed if I'm
yeah,
not supposed to? You know what I mean? So they have to address the infrastructure, right? And so they slowed it down, but more importantly, they want to make sure that they get their cut of the pie
oh
in
yeah,
a legitimate way. So that means like, how are we going to tax that state? How are we going
mm,
to tax the consumer? How are we going to spread it down? And what they've seen, if they're evaluating it, is the states that have set up some sort of process, the older markets, Washington, California, like they're struggling.
yeah, yeah. I
Um,
but I think with that though, a lot of it's we've been deceived too, right? Where it's like
mm,
we have to get the rules involved first before we actually make it so it's a free for all, which is bullshit.
no,
Because
we're
there, huh?
correcting the Constitution right now.
Well, it's like when alcohol prohibition, because there was an actual goddamn amendment, right, for alcohol prohibition that turned it over. It took 15 years before the actual regulation happened. So if we just deschedule it today, you know, you're not going to have stores popping up tomorrow. First off, it's a plant, it takes time to grow. It's an agriculture product. You got to know what you're doing. I think I'm growing 2 grams right now. You know, and it's been like 6 months. I totally fucked up these clones, but you know, it's a learning process. The whole thing, all this stuff is learning, but it's assumed that as soon as like legalization happens, we're all going to be walking zombie stone. I'm more of a zombie now because I'm just so befuddled by the world. Like there's so much bullshit and just inequity and inequality when the money pours into one thing, but it's not, it's going into the coffers of like, even here in Seattle, right? Like, well, we're going to do all this stuff to help the homeless. All they're doing is, I saw today, they painted the fucking buildings. I'm like, I wonder if there's like, there's empty buildings in the city. Like, are you helping these people? Are there programs? Or are you just pushing them all out and then we're gonna fucking power wash the streets and paint it? Like,
Yes,
but that's a
that the answer is
continuous thing
yes.
in every city, how we help our people, right? Because it's in the end to help people, there's got to be people on the other end to get paid to do it, right? And I think what we're seeing now is a point where people are just like, I don't get paid enough for this bullshit. Like in a world of tech, like honestly, I make more money than I ever had, and I work way less, and I smoke so much weed. But that's the inequality in the thinking of this whole 9 to 5 bullshit. Like the pandemic totally shook up things. People are questioning, like, how do I have, like, the only reason really you have to be 9 to 5, I think, well, besides like an office, like a doctor or someplace where you can go, but like manufacturing.
Or banking.
Yeah, someplace where you have to like, you know, like, or like a restaurant to be open at certain hours, you know, but like that comes down to your business model and plan. Whereas like, you know, or manufacturing, where or if everybody shows up from 9 to 5, we have to all do these widgets. Whereas there are so many other jobs like coders and test engineers and just different fucking things that are not 9 to 5. They're kind of like show up when you want, do a couple of things. You just made a company $1 million. Hey, you're good to go. Right. I mean, that's how we prove our
Right.
value. Bullshit.
So wait, what about your third takeaway? So
Ah,
you told me the money, the politics,
so
or medical to rec, then the politics.
honestly, the third one is lack of community. You know,
Mm,
there's people talk about cannabis community or, you know, I honestly love I miss events, like, and they're starting to slowly happen again. And I think a lot besides the online presence was the showing up and talking to people. And a lot of these events, I would be collecting signatures for pot prisoners, or well, mostly just doing that, collecting signatures and helping them out. And but I think it just seems there is a lack of community where people, for one, the 502 people, the people on the recreational side of things, for the most part, are like, mine. This is mine. I don't have to share. I don't want to let you have a chance. Like when you're against home grow, that's the dumbest fucking thing. I don't know why. Why are you against? It's not going to put you out of business. Trust me, my 2 grams are not going to fucking knock you out.
No, and I'm still gonna need your weed.
Yeah, seriously. But you have associations against that, right? Like actual the Washington Cannabis Association, WACA, was against the home grow rule that we were trying to push through. And to that point, in Washington State, we don't have a home grow rule, right? So technically everybody's illegal. My friend Don Skaki is the one, and John Kingsbury, 2 old ass retired white dudes, drove around this whole city, or not city, state. They drove around the state from east to west, educate people on home growth, trying to get this bill approved, get it on the ballot. And when they finally did, it was a Cannabis Alliance to help them out, right? Again, you need money to help you get through the threshold. This bill has been sitting in committee, I think, for 3 years now. So, I mean,
Washington's legislative process is ass. That's all I can say. I mean, like, it's not just Washington, it's just the legislative process as a whole. But I think that we don't want to make changes to the money that they see coming in with that 37% excise tax.
Oh, no way.
And not that it would, though. Like, mathematically, it doesn't make sense. In truth, you would get more like sales if you tax the agricultural equipment needed to grow for the home. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to give them an idea of how to take it, but it could end up putting more money in the state's pocket just by people going and purchasing equipment to do the home grow. Easily. And it would increase the understanding that the average consumer could have about the plant, because you know how many people like growing just plants in the state? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, like,
exactly.
Right. So it just doesn't make sense as a whole to me, but I agree with you and your stance that well, some of it, right? And
there's good people. There's good people, but
so well, this is where I agree with you. I would say the cannabis industry lacks the cannabis community, right? Because they decided, well, we need to be as businessy as possible, and we're just going to go this route so we can make it more mainstream. But cannabis has always been the anti-establishment product. So your thought process that you was going to make it mainstream is a fallacy, right? Like a little bit. If you didn't encourage the anti-establishment culture that goes hand in hand with it. So that's where I say you're right, but the community of cannabis is always there. I went to, and speak of it, someone posted an event flyer, and it was just like, we're gonna play music in the park. BYOB and your own weed. Come hang out with us, right? And I shit you not, I almost started crying being there, right? Because it was exactly what I experienced that influenced me to go to the T.B.C. in the first place. It was just people that were friends that had musical talent that get together on Sundays to hang out and just like live riff off of each other, play instruments and hang out. And they had decided to take it to the outside, and taking it to the outside and opened it up to more people to come on down. And them saying BYOB, I looked across, everyone was rolling up of some sort. Like they were, you know what I mean? Like just clouds of smoke is in the air. So the culture is there. Like they're like, oh, what you burning over there? Or they're not even there. Everyone has their own. So it wasn't even like, oh, let me borrow more than a lighter. You know, it's just like, oh, you got a lighter. Let me get that lighter right quick. Let me spark my stuff. So I was like, okay, culture. Yeah. But these are like amazingly talented artists. And you get there, you see the circle of the folks with instruments, and you're like, okay, well, those are the musicians, those are the people performing. And then you realize as the mic just gets like another voice happens that everyone in this crowd has a musical talent.
Oh my
Every
God.
single person. And there was about, I would say at least 30 of us there, something close to that, right?
Nice.
And I would say maybe 6 of us weren't performing, maybe 6 to 10.
Oh, wow.
Right. So just like cannabis does not determine the value of cannabis use does not determine the value of a person.
Yeah.
And the energy that I experienced being there, everyone walked like, I didn't know they all knew each other and they all hung out every Sunday. So I just thought this was a dope event. But every single person there gave me their name, said thank you for coming. They were courteous. They had food there, free food for anyone that had arrived. They brought a pie. They said it's an open mic. If you have something to perform, get on there if you want. So what I'm saying, the culture, that willingness, that giving that comes with the community of cannabis, it's there. The cannabis community exists. It just doesn't exist within the industry because
I feel it.
People that represent the community don't survive in that form of establishment.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like in the medical times, like I remember, man, we did when there was markets, we did a fundraiser for somebody that got raided by the feds, right? So there was fundraisers to help with their legal fees, or even what else? I mean, like it seemed to me, or like when the raids were happening, Facebook at the time, like you'd see posts like, hey, raids are going on here, and like you would see like at the time it seemed like prohibition encouraged a tighter unit of people because they had to. They were all against the law, like you're saying. Like you're creating this, like cannabis has always been the outlaw industry, which is kind of funny. Like we're trying to take this plant that's been demonized for almost 100 years, probably plus, and now put it in this like it's okay box, right? Like, but it's always been okay. That's the problem. Like we're trying to educate people that this is not this evil, the devil's lettuce that you were taught in 1930. Which when you talk about culture, I used to think that like that, like even like with hip hop, when we talk about the culture, and as a minority myself, sometimes I forget I am one. I think I'm a white guy sometimes, but the thing is, when I think about culture, I try also think about like my advocacy, what I've been doing with my time on this earth, and a lot of it comes down to like the culture to me is America itself, right? Like I'm just trying to sway everybody to be on the same page, like whatever you are, let's not give a fuck about what you are. Let's all be like legally on the same page. Like everybody's allowed to smoke weed from Kentucky to Washington State to Florida. It's so funny to me when I hear people like bitching about like the politics of like the electoral vote and the popular vote, right? Like, well, the North and the South are two different things. So you tell me people in the North and people in the South shit and piss different? Like, do we all like eat different? Like, what's different about us besides the racism and the other bullshit, right? Like, there's fundamental bullshit we can all agree on. Right. Like, everybody should use a blinker light when you fucking change a lane. But, but you know what I mean? Like, I'd be thinking a lot when I'm driving too, because I like to drive. I used to drive a lot on the road. And, on the road, I think, this is the one time in society where no one really gives a fuck about the other person, whether their sexuality, what their sex, what their color is. Just don't hit me. And I don't want to hit you.
Right. That's so simple. That's golden right there. Well, I really enjoyed our time talking about the various subjects that touch our lives and cause us to intersect in this cannabis online world. I think everyone has their own purpose in their community that they can reach, and you're saying some valuable things out there, but I just want to let folks know it's not all gloom and doom, right? If you are going to get on here and say that you advocate for the plant, live it.
That's it.
Live it and be true. So for yourself, Miggy420, what's next, and where can they find you?
If you the website's Cannabis Legalization News, all one word, and you can that's the plethora of everything that I'll be doing. The blog that I would like to join you on, and also other people if they want to like reach out as far as writing or content. I'm trying to create a network, and that's what this all comes down to. That's one thing I've learned out of anything else is like, one, have a network. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, because there could be an asshole that takes over a website or whatever you're part of, and now you're kicked out of it. Well, now everything you've done is done. Like, why? But so, like, spread yourself out a little bit, but also be consistent, like you're saying. Like, the only message I'm trying to say is just treat us all equally, right? Like, it's bad law. There's so much more to go off on. There's this conversation besides culture, legal. You can go all the way to science and talking about like CBGs and CBNs, and but that's not my steez. My steez is just the law, and I would love to do other things, but until people are free, like Luke Scarmazzo and Lance Glore, it really puts everything else I do to a small, like, it's not even like there's no weight to it, right? It's kind of like when I go to work, like I was telling you, like now that I make more money and do a thing that I enjoy doing where I'm at, and I'm actually in this place that's actually respectable. Before I had respect, uh, but that's the thing, is like it's a very much ado about nothing, but it's very important because people are losing their time. People are missing their kids graduate school. Parents are dying while they're locked up. There's so much. Prohibition has done more harm to our society than it's done good. It's done more dividing, and then, like we're talking about representation, there are a lot of good people who do smoke weed, but there are shitheads out there, like you're talking about. Like, I don't know if you remember during the January 6th shit, some asshole lit up in the middle of the Capitol, and you're like, yeah, so what's your point, bro? Are you trying America, like my freedom, or are you just being a disrespectful asshole and smoking in someone's house? You're not making a statement unless you were willing to go to jail for it. That's what I'm going down. Like, a lot of times people are afraid. Tennessee, I get it all the time. Messages. People are just like, I really appreciate you talking, but I can't. And I get it, because people will go after you as soon as you speak up, right? Oh, you're a lefty liberal for whatever reason. What? That we all like be left alone? God forbid. I think that we all should just like live happy and live our truths.
Right. Well, I thank you for your key takeaways. I think living our truths is the perfect way to kind of close what we're saying here. That if you want to be a cannabis influencer and you want to be online, then you need to live the truth. You can't have it be an act. So if that's what you're putting out there into the world, do something about it. Do more than just pull out your phone and show the weed that you're smoking today. Do create content that pushes change, or outside of the internet, actually engage with people around you, because we have a long road ahead of us. They had 100 years to dispel and get rid of the truth, which is this is a medicinal plant that is helping people, and so we need to put in just as much time undoing that level of brainwashing for our community. And that's why we each have our own platforms and we speak to as many people out there as possible. So thank you for joining us on another episode of Potheads Pondering today, man.
Thank you, Lada.
All right, stay baked.